anovhura meso, anovhura nzeve, anogaya mari.
Good evening, and everyone that is watching on Gambakwe Media and also on JCTV Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful broadcast as we are looking at the life of the fallen leader of ZAOGA, Mr. Ezekiel Guti. It is a sad day for the people of ZAOGA and the followers and the spiritual children of the man. And we extend our condolences to the family, and we extend our condolences to everyone that is watching, that is a fan of Ezekiel Guti. As I alluded earlier in my broadcast that I did on Facebook, and the one that I posted also on YouTube, that we're going to dissect, we're going to talk about the succession plan and why I needed to talk about this. Some people felt, as I was interacting with some people on my Facebook, and some people were contacting me, some people felt that it is too early to talk about this, and it doesn't coincide with our cultures and values of Ubuntu. But I want to say that there is no better time to talk about this than now. In actual sense, I really feel that it is too late. And I said I'm going to provide empirical evidence to this regard, that there was a need for the church rather to have a clear succession plan so that they avoid either fights or they avoid people taking or creating factions within the church. Some of you recall, I think somewhere around 2021, there was an article that she was saying that there was fights that was going on. There was a G40 and the other faction that was lining with the Guti family. But anyway, that's not the subject of the matter today. Coming back to what I said in the afternoon, I said there is need for some of the people or the people that are listening to say, we need to put emotions aside and think and look at history and look at scientific evidence and what happened in the past. And I've got some case studies that you can go and look at. And after you have looked on those, you can make a determination whether I am just hallucinating or I'm just somebody who is jealous or somebody who is bitter about the late Ezekiel Guti. So this is coming from a place of love to those that are watching. It is not coming from a place of hate. It is coming from a place of love, because I've got family members that are still in ZAOGA. I've got friends that are still in ZAOGA. I've got colleagues that I meet that are still in ZAOGA. I've got a lot of people that I know that I still do business with that are in ZAOGA. And there are a lot of souls that are in ZAOGA that I love so dearly. Hence, I'm doing this broadcast. I'm not paid for this. It's not coming from a desire to see harm in the congregation, but it is from a desire of the souls. Because in all this, if fights start to erupt or if anything goes wrong, the souls, the individuals that are going to be affected, is where my problem is. That's where I come in. That's where my heart is crying for the souls that are going to be affected in all this. So to begin with, I want to say, some of you, In the year 697 AD, 697 AD, Prophet Muhammad died, who is of the Islam uh, faith. After Prophet Muhammad died, there was two factions. The one faction that was saying that they want the successor of Prophet Muhammad to come from his family, from his lineage. And another which was saying they want the successor of Prophet Muhammad to come from the community. That's where we start to see what is called Shia and Sunni Muslim. The Shia being the ones that were for the idea that the family was supposed to bring a successor, and the Sunni being the ones that were saying that rather the community must bring a successor. Right? Looking at this, there is relative. It's very, very relative to what is happening now, and I can prove to you now that right now there are some people in ZAOGA who are for the idea that a successor must come from the family, and there are people who are saying successor must come from the leaders that are within the church. And this is mostly caused by pastors, children of pastors, who have served in the church for over 30 plus 40 years. And these are the pastors that are being sidelined now because they are not strong enough to be vivacious and energetic and do what these young pastors are doing deliverance, doing all these other kind of things. They cannot be as charismatic they are not eloquent in their speech, and some of them, they've been relegated to rural areas. Their children who have seen the church grow, these will be the ones who will be saying, let's not have a leader from the dynasty or from the royal family. But there are those who say, for stability's sake, let's have someone from the royal family. And that's where the problem is. That's where the quandary is. And then you also have some pastors who are then saying, we want to, we have been sidelined for quite long. It's high time we should take over. They also are the ones that can be classified, they can fall under the Shia, or they can be classified under the Shia Muslim, or we can liken them to what happened to the Shia Muslim, right? So what then happens is this. That's where the problem is. That's where the quandary is. And this is just saying, and you know, if you have been following the history of the Shia and the Sunni, the Shias, they are the ones that are in countries like Saudi Arabia, and the Sunnis are the ones that are in the countries like Iran. Looking at these two camps, they have fought in the past, and the fightings are all for three things, right? Power, resources, and the political stance. So you can see that all these three things, these three issues, there is going to be fight for the resources. The resources that have been accumulated over the years in the church, and these resources are going to be something that people will be asking, who is going to take over? Who is going to take over? And those are the things that you need to then ask yourself, who is going to take over this whether it is Bizegu, whether it is church properties, whether it's cars, whether it's all these properties that are listed in the church's name. So that is the fight that is going to ensue. So looking at all this modern day, there is here in South Africa the story of Shembe. There is a faction that believed that the cousin of Shembe was supposed to take over. And there is another faction that says the son of Shembe is supposed to take over. There was a court judgment, and this has been going on for years. So it's not different to what is happening now, because there has not been a clear succession plan to say this one is going to be in charge. I'm presenting him to you, everyone in the church. He is going to be your successor. He is going to be your father or your leader from now. That is a recipe for disaster. And this is not start now. This can date back to 1,000 years back, and it has created problems that are more than 1,000 years old. So ZAOGA is not it cannot be exempted from this. It can fall victim to this because people have done this in the past, and the results are very, very deadly. They've led into death. They've led into people fighting each other. They've led people into shooting each other. If it is in the Muslim world, it has led to many bloodbaths. There have been suicide bombings that have happened in Afghanistan. There have been suicide bombs that have happened in different parts of the place. But I'm just saying, we have seen this happening in Africa, and relatively in South Africa. We've seen this happening even at Paul Maja's church. Whilst he's still alive, there are still fights. So the fights are inevitable. They are going to come. But people, they are saying, let's wait until. But I can tell you that the earlier the people they discuss about this and they reach an amicable solution, this will avoid splits. This will avoid people ending up having different faction, another faction, because the fight really is going to be about resources. I am joined once again by my brother, Pardon Gambakwe, on this subject. And I don't know what people are saying because I can't see from the other side.
Okay, how are you, Kama Jetro? It's been a long time since we spoke.
Yes, I'm good. How are you doing?
Okay, fantastic. You've got a very interesting topic, and specifically, people don't appreciate or may not appreciate how big and humongous ZAOGA is. ZAOGA is probably the biggest church in Zimbabwe. And
yes.
I think we need to give people a bit of background on what is ZAOGA, and especially here in South Africa, how big it is in the United Kingdom, in Australia, in New Zealand. This is one of the biggest churches, founded in 1960 by Dr. Ezekiel Guti. Initially, it was called the AFM in Southern Rhodesia. So they changed their name to ZAOGA, which is the Zimbabwe Assemblies of God in Africa. So it's a humongous church, which has got a hierarchical structure. At the top is Dr. Ezekiel Guti himself, and then there are branches or levels at the bottom. So what you're talking about is very, very important. There's no succession plan because there was a hierarchical structure with him at the top. In terms of assets, ZAOGA is billions. It's worth billions. There is no church in Zimbabwe as rich as ZAOGA. It has got hospitals, universities, and it also has multiple assets, like you alluded to earlier when you started your presentation. And if you look at the Zimbabwe Ezekiel Guti University, I don't know how many students are over there, but it can easily challenge some small universities in Zimbabwe. The death of Dr. Ezekiel Guti is very, very significant in terms of the religion in Zimbabwe. Many, many pastors are coming from ZAOGA, and I know that you know ZAOGA very well. You are very, very connected to ZAOGA. So what you're talking about is not theoretical. It's something that is actually very, very practical. So I want to jump in with the question so that I can give people more clarity. In terms of the family, is the wife not able to take over the church, like what TB Joshua's wife has done in Nigeria?
That is a possibility, but you see, the difference between TB Joshua and ZAOGA's church is that with TB Joshua, he had a centralized church. So it's difficult. It's very easy to to have that kind of administration because it's mainly based on these other branches that are coming out. They don't have much significance to the bigger picture of things. Whereas in ZAOGA, it's satellite based, it's remotely based. You have the voices of a number of pastors. You have pastors that are coming from the UK, there are pastors that are coming from America. You've got pastors that are like, there are thousands of pastors that are in Zimbabwe that have got autonomous districts. And these autonomous districts have got also assemblies of elders. Yes, they pay allegiance to the woman of God or the wife to the late Professor Ezekiel Guti. But what you then have is you have some people who are for the idea that it's not ideal for her to lead at the expense of people who were with the men since the inception of the church or since the start of the church. There are some people who were part of the church when it started, and these people, some would say they ought to be rewarded by being given a position of being able to lead, maybe for a few years, and then hand over to the other person or something like that. And some of them will feel aggrieved by some of the decisions that are being made even now or before the men passed away. And this will be their time to say, enough of this, let us take over and make sure that we clear out our grievances that we have. And this is not something that I'm hallucinating. This is something that I've seen. This is something that I've heard. It's something that I have people, sources inside the church that have spoken to me to say, this ABCD is happening, and I wonder what is going to happen after the man is gone. And some of the people will be just saying, we are just waiting for the men to go, and this we are going to strike. So these are the things that makes me to say such ways that it's going to be difficult because of how ZAOGA is structured. It's structured in a different way than TB Joshua's church.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking you is that the wife of Ezekiel Guti that I'm displaying here, Ena Guti, she is trending right now all over the world. If you look at Zimbabwe trends, she's currently trending, which means people are thinking about what they're saying. That is she going to take over this church, this humongous church? Is she going to be the first female leader of a massive church like ZAOGA? And then obviously, if you look at the ZAOGA structure, there are other prominent pastor here. Tawonga Guti, he's there. There is Andrew Utaonashe. I don't know if Andrew Utaonashe is still in ZAOGA or was in ZAOGA from the trends that I'm looking at here. And obviously, those are the three prominent people. Is Andrew in the running?
Andrew Utaonashe is leading our Family of God. He's not in ZAOGA.
Okay, so I guess that leaves Tawonga and the mom, who is Erna. How close are these two?
Yeah, as maybe you have heard, if you check Zigo's broadcast, he alluded to Dr. Joseph Guti, the one who gave the announcement yesterday about the passing of the leader, that he is the one who is going to take over. And there was some voice note that is in that broadcast whereby he was saying that I'm giving you Dr. Joe to be your father, something like that. But my issue is that it must be made in an and it must be very, very clear. You know, they always say in law that the devil is in the smaller details. So those small details that are not being revealed, to say that has not been clearly stated to the church, is where I'm saying that's where the problem is. Because if this what I mean, we can't even say if. The situation is we are already in it. The man is gone. The succession plan has not been clearly stated by him, which makes it very, very, very volatile for the people that are there to then say who is going to take over and what is going to give the other person to say, I am the one. I mean, to say you are you are the one that is going to take over this church, and I am going to be subordinate to you. You know, that is where the problem is. That are these people that are the pastors that are there, the bishops, the apostles that are there, are they going to they pay homage to Dr. Joe Guti, the one that was appointed, or they are going to just rebel, and probably they might have support of their congregants and other people who are also feeling aggrieved. Because from what I know, there are a lot of aggrieved people. There are a lot of people who have grievances. I was talking to one son of a pastor, and he was telling me that, look, I was actually happy that the man is gone. Now that we can do whatever we want with the district that we have, or with the properties that are in my district as a pastor. So these things whereby there are people who are so much aggrieved that are inside. That is where I see the problem, because there is no clear outlined plan to say this one is going to take over, and the respect that that was causing them to, or maybe that was causing them to be restrained, was the man that is passed away. So that is where my problem is. The restraint is not going to be there from some of the pastors, because they will now feel the man is gone, we can now do whatever we want.
Okay, so I want us to look a bit deeper at the characters involved in the factionalism in ZAOGA. Then maybe if you know some of them, you can give us more detail. So you've already talked about Joseph Guti. Joseph Guti is the one who had taken some properties and they transferred those properties into his name. If you go to gambako.com, you will see an article that we did there in 2021. There were properties that were transferred without Dr. Guti's knowledge into Joseph's name. And the daughter from the first marriage, she's the one who reversed that property. He was being held hostage and he was not being allowed to see people, according to people that spoke to us in 2021. And then there are certain characters here like Gracious Chikore, Dorcas Jaricha, Lavinis Mango, who were also very, very close to Dr. Guti. And there was Washington Rupapa. Washington Rupapa was dismissed.
Yeah.
Right. So who are these characters? What are these people who were involved in this factionalism? Was Dr. Guti very sick? Was he being held hostage?
From the people that I've spoken to, it seems like I would be speculating and I won't be factual, but there are some people who are saying that they are fights of this nature, and from some of the articles that I also read, they were fights. But you know, they always say where there is smoke, there is fire. These issues, the ones that I actually know is where I've interacted with people. I actually met the men, but from a distance. I saw Professor Ezekiel Guti in April, and I also saw Dr. Joseph Guti in April. And I'm very much aware of all these other people that are involved, like the ones that you've mentioned, Precious Chikore. These are the daughters of the late. And what I can say is there are interested parties in this whole issue, and I will be also speculative if I say I know of the shenanigans or anything that they've done that is sinister to this regard. But there are some reports that I've heard from the people that I speak to, and they say, look, these guys, they've done this and they are unscathed. And these guys, they've done this and nobody can rebuke them. So there are reports from people and sources from inside the church that these people are untouchables and they cannot get any rebuke from anywhere, and they can have access to these properties. Because remember, some of the properties or some of the assets that might be talking about, some of them, they are registered under a trust. They are not registered in the church's name. So you then have, if they are then registered under a family trust, the assets that have been accumulated by by givings or by offerings that are given by the church members or contributions, then you have a problem, because some of the leaders that are in the church will then feel that there is a bit of fraud, whereby assets that are supposed to be belonging to the church are belonging to a trust. So those are the issues that I've been hearing, when I was putting my ear on the ground, people have been telling me that these are the things that people are going to contend with. So this is the firstborn from the second marriage, Dr. Laven Simkai, and the husband to her, the husband is the Deputy Secretary General, if I'm not mistaken. He was the deputy to Dr. Washington Papa, but Dr. Washington Papa was removed from that post somewhere around 2017 because of his utterances. I think he made some utterances about people registering to vote, and then he was then removed. Then he was replaced by Michelle Nyambo. So that is the hierarchy that I'm aware of. So in a nutshell, what I can say is that there are fights that are there, some of them, and there are factions that I can tell you that they are there, but mostly they are coming from the children of pastors who have been sidelined, and also the pastors that are feeling sidelined by the new generation or the new crop of pastors that is coming up, that is not giving them opportunity, obviously, to survive. So that is where the faction is. So being held at hostage, I cannot confirm about that, but it is news that was speculative that I found online, and also hearing from people. However, what I know is there is a faction and there is another faction. It is yet to come out, and probably now that this has happened, we are going to see them coming out.
Okay, what role is Fiona Arthurs speaking? And also, can you give us an indication of the relationship between Simba Chikore and Gracious Chikore? Are these related?
Right. Simba Chikore, the one who was married to Bona, and she is actually she's a sister-in-law to Simba Chikore, in the sense that the brother to Simba Chikore, the younger brother, because Simba Chikore, he had two twin brothers, Reason and I think I can't remember the first name of the husband to Ray Chikore. These are the two. One of the twin is married to Gracious Chikore, who is the daughter. I think is the second from last of the late. So they are related in the sense that Gracious Chikore is the sister-in-law to Simba Chikore.
Okay, and Fiona Arthurs?
Fiona Arthurs is the second born of the second marriage of which is second daughter of Dr. Guti. She's married to Paul Acker, who is in Weirton in Illinois in the USA.
Okay, so of all these people who are in these factions,
yeah,
who then is the leader? Is it Dr. Guti? Is she able to pick a successor from these people? Who is the most likely, in the absence of a natural successor? Who is going to be picked here? Who is the kingmaker? Is there a structure, a governance structure within ZAOGA that can pick up a successor? Is that person supposed to be as charismatic to keep the church together? What do you think is going to happen there?
From what I can pick and what I've always seen happening in the past is that Dr. Joseph, the one that gave an announcement yesterday, is the likely successor, in the sense that he has been in charge of a number of institutions in the church. He has been in charge of the Bible school. He also been in charge of the ZAOGA. He is now the chancellor of ZAOGA, which, as you know, that naturally the son to the late was also late. He died in 2017 of drowning in South Africa, and he was probably going to be the immediate successor. He did not die, but from long back, you could see that Dr. Joseph was being coached for that succession plan. So he is the likely one to take over. Probably the wife might just say he can take over as he is part of the family, because he falls under I don't think that inside the family there could be factions inside the family, inside the Guti family, because he is the nephew to the late, but he falls into the family. So there is no way that he could then sway from the family values. Obviously, he would then stay within the ranks of the family and say, "I am in charge of the Guti as someone who is in the lineage." So the likelihood of seeing probably the firstborn, who is Dr. Lavelle Simkai, taking over, I don't see that as a possibility. You can't deny it that it can be a possibility, but I don't see that as a possibility. But naturally, I would think that Dr. Joe has been at the helm of the institutions of the church. That would probably give him the edge over other individuals.
Okay, so I'm displaying a picture here of Dr. Joseph Guti. Dr. Joseph Guti looks quite young, and I've never myself personally seen him doing anything public, except for appearing in a few pictures or videos here and there. But I've never seen him. Do you think you'll be able to carry such an institution like ZAOGA, which is humongous and $1 billion institution?
Personally, I would say he can. Definitely, he can. Having seen him running the likes of Amphik, because remember, Amphik is not just Amphik Bible school for the pastors. It also has another branch of Bible school that then trains leaders, which is your elders and your deacons in the church. So it has an evening Bible school that then awards diplomas. So he has been, all around the world, being the principal of that institution for quite some time. I think for over 20 or 25 years. So I would say that he has those qualities, and for the past, like from the time I saw him, or in April, when I went to the church, I was escorting my wife. She was doing some catering there, and I was there. at the church, and I could see from the how people were addressing him that they were just giving that respect that he is the one that is likely to take over. So, but as for telling this generation, because the challenge now is he can take over, but the challenge is the pastors that have been with the church for quite some time. How are they going to feel now? Are they going to feel that they have a leader who is going to listen to them like what the late was doing? So that is where the problem is. So the problem is he going to be a listening leader like the late Ezekiel Guti, or is going to be probably hard-headed and say, no, what I've said, this is it. So now it's now up to his faith. Is he going to be good enough to the satisfaction of these pastors that were under the late for a long time? And some of them who feel aggrieved, some of them they've been thrown into the rural areas. One of the persons that I can actually know is there's a pastor who actually started his own church. I don't want to mention his name. There's a pastor who started his own church, but his father was a bishop in the church, and he was just thrown into the rural areas and was told that it's time for you to retire, go back to the rural areas. And he went to the rural areas. There was no support for him. There is no retirement package for him, as he was always dependent on the allowances and probably groceries that are being done on a month-to-month basis by the believers. So once he is now relegated to the rural areas, there is no way that he's going to have a means of survival. So now these are the pastors that I fear are going to be a stumbling block for the leadership of Dr. Joseph, because these ones, if they feel aggrieved, obviously they can influence some elements in the church, and that way the quandary is going to come.
Okay, so I want to touch on what you've just said in terms of culture. Culture in ZAOGA. You spend a lot of time in ZAOGA and you work very closely with the media arm. What would you say was the culture at ZAOGA when you were there? Was it, are they listening? Are they going to be a listening institution, or are they going to implode?
Looking at that is one thing that I've always struggled with for the longest time, that the challenge that we have is that you have, frankly speaking, most of the key institutions in the church, there is one of the relatives of the late. That is what he has done. He had appointed his sons, his nephews to be in charge of a number of institutions, be it ZAOGA, be it Ezekiel TV, be it Docas, be it all these other institutions of influence to the church. Most of them, they have been his children. And to that regard, it was mainly because in the 80s, there was a faction, I think it was of Sunday, that almost fought him, and they almost killed him in Marondera, and there was big fight and all of that. And some of the people, then they promised that we want to wait until the man is dead, and then we're going to take over. And that made him to then go for loyalty from family rather than loyalty from people that has been with him for a long time. So the culture that is then culminated from that is the children of the men or the nephews or the family people from the church. They are given these positions not from a position of merit. They are given these positions from a position of they being part of the dynasty. So now there is that feeling that this is our thing. Our father inherited this or he worked hard for this. So you don't tell us anything. So there is that pushback that you then find that chinhu chedu baba vedu vakachitambudzikira and all of that. So it then creates a culture whereby whenever people want to say, don't do this, there's always a pushback. It's our thing, you have nothing to say about. It's our father's thing, you have nothing to say about. So that is where the problem is going to emanate from, because I really think that the implosion is going to come from there, from that culture or from that mentality of saying, Chindisha Baba Vedu, Chindisha Sekuru Vedu, Chindisha Anu Vedu, it's from our family. That is where the problem is going. So that's the culture that I started to observe in these key institutions where I'll find myself, rubbing shoulders with some of the leaders that are in those key institutions.
Okay, let's wrap this up. From my side, I've got a lot of questions, and I think maybe we should, when they do make the appointment, we should come back and see what has happened there. You are looking at the screen, and I've shared the picture of President Mnangagwa at the celebration here, 100th birthday.
Yes.
Who are the people on the screen? I know my screen is a bit small. Who are the key people on that screen?
Yeah, from what I can see is the wife, and from the other person there is Dr. Joseph, the one that gave the announcement, is the national chairperson for the National Council, and the wife, obviously. The other one I cannot see clearly, but I can see some of the bodyguards. But from the key people that I can see that Dr. Joy is there, who is a person of interest in this whole succession plan.
Okay, is that the wife next to Dr. Ezekiel Guti?
Yeah. The wife is one that is in the that's the wife to. Her name is Dr. I think Dr. Nyasha Guti, the wife to Dr. Joe Guti. She's the wife to. She's actually the daughter of. She's the sister of Shingisai Suluma. That one.
Okay, and the guy at the back, is that the son? This one.
I cannot see clearly though, but I'm just assuming that it could be. No. That one is I think it's Dr. Steve Simkai, the son-in-law, the husband to the firstborn of Dr. Yunaguti.
Okay, so clearly this family is well connected. Does Grace Mugabe play a part in this family as still, or are they now alienated from each other?
From what I know, from when I'm putting my ear on the ground, there are still connections, because there are some members in the church who are key members as in pastors that are connected to the former First Lady. However, what I don't know is how has been the communication, how has been the relationship after the demise of the late Robert Mugabe, and there are some changes in the government, and you are much aware that Dr. Grace Mugabe has kept a low profile, and there's nothing much that has been talked about in the public platforms. So you cannot tell what is really going on in the background between them and the Guti family. So I cannot tell now the relationship, but what I know is there are people that are key, that are very, very, very much close to the former First Lady.
Okay, my last question is Toronto. Dr. Guti was always going to Canada, Toronto. What's happening there? Who is in Toronto? Why is this so he was going there so much? Was he ill? Is that where he was getting treatment?
Not really. It was not much about treatment, but Remember, Dr. Professor Guti was his young brother, Dr. Nelson Guti. I don't know if he's doctor, but I just know that he was his young brother. If you look at him, he looks very much alike with the late. He was stationed in Toronto as the Archbishop of that nation, as the Archbishop of Kwame stayed there. So he would frequent that side because this is the man that started with him. He was his sibling. He's the man who started with him this church from way back, and he knows the ins and outs and everything. So you'd frequent, like, what you do is, like, his schedule, if I remember correctly, his schedule was whenever, like, he would start in January, he would do the deeper life in Zimbabwe, and then after that he would then go and do a deeper life in Australia, and then after Australia, then I think New Zealand in somewhere around March, and then after that he then comes and does the deeper life in South Africa, and then from a deeper life in South Africa he then goes and does a deeper life in the UK, and from a deeper life in the UK he then goes and does a deeper life again in the US, and after a deeper life in the US then he goes to Canada. Mostly, as you know, with old age, he was now trying to go places to go to places when it's summer, because of old age. He would not want to get too much cold in his body, so he would want to be in places where it would be hot, it would be warm. Probably because of old age, he wouldn't want to be in places that are too cold. So those degenerating disease would catch up with him. So he would try to avoid that. So he would be in places where it would be warm. So he would go to Australia when it's summer. You go to Canada when it's also summer in Canada, and also go to USA when it's summer, and you'll be in South Africa when it's summer, and also be in Zimbabwe when it's summer. So that was his yearly schedule. He would try to avoid cold by all means.
Okay, I obviously don't want to go into a lot of other controversial issues. I think we should agree that the life of Dr. Ezekiel Guti was quite significant in Zimbabwe. He was very close to the political class in Zimbabwe. He was very close to money. He had a lot of cash. In fact, he was the first billionaire, a billionaire from religion in Zimbabwe. I don't think there's another. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there anyone who has made so much money from religion like Dr. Guti, who has created such an expansive empire like Dr. Guti?
Definitely no. And he has tried to make sure the empire is not. He is not like these modern day pastors, whereby they try to show opulence and to be flamboyant in their approach. However, if you look at the assets that the churches accrued and that are under his wing, he is in those figures of billions. There is no doubt, and some people might see him as as just a simple leader of the church. But if you look at him in terms of asset and monetary value, he might surpass all the pastors. I mean, he actually surpasses all the pastors that are in Zimbabwe that are claiming to be more richer than him. So I don't see anyone that can surpass him, because in terms of the church grassroots level, in terms of the assets that are in many parts of the country and even abroad, they are massive. They are incomparable. I know that he has a MyPac that is here in South Africa. He has a MyPac that is in Zimbabwe. I mean, I think probably 2 MyPacs in every country. Probably there is one of his luxurious vehicles and mansions that are there that are under his name, and houses that are under his name. But he has not been, that person who, flourish. He tries to show what he has and shows off what he has. So definitely people will just count him as just a simple pastor, but in terms of value, he has a lot of value in terms of assets.
Right. Mugoma Jetro Rusike, it was very, very interesting, very exciting to talk to you. I don't think people understand how much knowledge you've got of these people, of the political class in Zimbabwe. And I really appreciate talking to you all the time. Before I let us end this discussion, what do you make of Passion Java? He made a prophecy a few months ago. Is that a proper prophecy? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you see, when it comes to God, he sometimes is very humorous in the sense that he uses people that we least expect, and in this, you know, a number of people have been saying that it was evident, that it was obvious that Ezekiel Guti was old, was 100 years, so he was about to die. But what people did not deduct from Passion Java's prophecy was this same issue that I'm raising now, that the succession plan is in disarray. If the succession plan is not in order, you are bound to encounter challenges. So I'm not a fan of Passion Java, but I do think that as much as he's controversial and all of that, he has delivered a prophecy that was supposed to be hidden to with a pinch of salt to say, let us put our house in order. Let us make sure that we don't have a problem of this succession plan, because it is going to come back and haunt us. And I'm not prophesying, but I'm just using the previous experiences, and I've given the case studies that this is what is bound to happen if you don't follow ABCD procedures. And what Passion Java was reiterating in that prophecy, I think it is spot on in terms of what needed to be done. But I don't think it has fallen on deaf ears. But we'll see what happens in the near future.
Right, thank you very much, Mugoma Jetro. I think we should say people should follow JCTV Zimbabwe on YouTube and Facebook. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
I want to say to my fellow brothers and sisters that are in ZAOGA and those that follow, that love the late Professor Ezekiel Guti, you know that I've spoken in a number of platforms that I had grievances with him, but if you see me talking about this, it's not coming from a place of hate, it is coming from a place of love, because I love people and I believe that JCTV Africa, actually, JCTV Africa, it is coming from a place of love and it's not coming from a place of hate. And I do this because I really want to see people not being their faith being thrown apart, thrown out, and people starting to hate going to church, because you don't know how significant the man is in terms of how people view him, be it pastors, be it the churches that have come now. They view the late Dr. Guti in high regard. So if things go in disarray in this church, it will have a huge impact on it's not going to just affect ZAOGA alone, it's also going to affect other churches. It is going to affect even smaller churches, because he is going to be used as a case study that he failed to do this and he failed to do this. And if the church is like this, then I'm not going to go to church. So it's not coming from a place of hate. My presentation or my argument is coming from a place of love, to say, stop this and avert danger. If there are meetings that you need to do, you need to be doing, or you need to be pushing to say, let us have a clear succession plan that is agreeable on anyone and on everyone, so that we don't have fights. That is where this is coming from. And I started this from 2019, but still people look at me and say, he is against, he is bitter and something like that, which is not.
Okay, I think we need to go into that story. You talked about it a little bit a few years ago, but I think as we go towards this week, we should unpack your interactions in ZAOGA and also at the TV station. We should talk more about it now and see what happened. What happened there? I'm sure people would like to know your interaction with the Guti family and also the TV station, and also the status of communication in ZAOGA. I think it will be very interesting for people to hear from you.
Yes, I'll be much welcome, I'll say.
Okay, so I think we'll probably have to do that on JCTV Zimbabwe. So you probably send out a banner and we'll see when you unpack more. I think this is not a once-off. Let's keep on talking about what's happening until the burial, until even after on the succession. Thank you very much, Ngoma Jetro. I know that I keep talking and bringing more issues, but this is such an interesting topic. I would have wanted to talk about Timbuya Doctors Hospital. I would have wanted to talk about the other medical institutions. I really think there's so much to unpack about this family, and we should do it. And if I don't do it, other people should do it, so that we know more about Dr. Guti. And I've got lots of respect for these guys who started churches. They were way ahead of their time compared to the people that we have now. Although they're not perfect, but they did so much for all of us. I think let's look at one comment that I just saw now.
Yes.
It says here, we know it is forward in faith overseas, and they have church centers in Canada, USA, UK, Australia. Please note that these centers are worth millions of dollars each. We don't do Lamborghini in FF. But I don't think this guy, Mr. Milton Gaza, heard what you said. That Dr. Guti had at least 2 Maybach vehicles here in South Africa, not talking about what he had in Zimbabwe.
I'm just saying that I remember like last year the son-in-law showed me his Maybach, that this is his own, and he was saying to me that the church is big, the man is rich, and he's not even fond of riches. But I'm just saying that in terms of value, he has more value than what we could even think. Yes, he didn't have fancy cars parked in his garage, he didn't have a jet, he didn't have all these other expensive cars that people flaunt on social media. He was not that kind of a person, but the value is huge, more than what these people try to flaunt on social media. He was not that kind of a person. That I can attest to that.
All right, thank you very much, Ngoma Jetro, and good night to everybody.
All right, thank you so much for watching.